Imagine stepping into a forgotten world where the clocks have all stopped at midnight, dust hangs in the air like eternal snow, and every whisper echoes secrets from a century ago. Welcome to the chilling tale of the mansion where time stood still, a place so eerie that once you enter, you might never leave the same, or perhaps never leave at all, as urban explorers and historians alike have vanished within its walls, their stories swallowed by the silence that grips this forsaken estate like a vice, drawing you in with the promise of untold riches and hidden horrors that will make your skin crawl and your heart race from the very first moment. Nestled deep within the overgrown wilds of rural New England, where ancient oaks twist their gnarled branches like skeletal fingers reaching for the sky, the Eldridge Mansion loomed as a colossal relic of Victorian grandeur, its towering spires piercing the perpetual fog that shrouded the valley, a fog so thick it seemed to breathe with a life of its own, whispering warnings to any who dared approach the wrought iron gates rusted shut by decades of neglect, gates adorned with intricate carvings of mythical beasts frozen in eternal snarls, as if guarding against the passage of time itself. Built in 1872 by the enigmatic industrialist Cornelius Eldridge, a man whose fortune was forged in the fires of the Gilded Age through railroads that snaked across the continent like veins of steel, binding the nation, but at what cost? For rumors swirled that his wealth was tainted by darker dealings, pacts with shadowy figures and smoke-filled backrooms where souls were bartered as easily as stocks. And it was said that Eldridge, obsessed with immortality, poured his ill-gotten gains into this palatial home not merely as a residence but as a fortress against death, hiring architects from Europe who specialized in esoteric designs, incorporating hidden passages, alchemical symbols etched into the stonework, and a grand clock tower that dominated the skyline, its face perpetually set to 12, as though mocking the inexorable march of hours. The mansion's facade was a masterpiece of Gothic Revival architecture, with pointed arches framing windows of stained glass that depicted scenes not from biblical lore but from forgotten myths of time weavers and eternal loops, the brickwork a deep crimson hue that seemed to pulse faintly in the dim light, as if the building itself were alive, breathing in the secrets of those who had walked its halls, and oh, the halls. Vast corridors lined with portraits of Eldridge's ancestors, their eyes painted with such lifelike precision that they followed you as you passed, judging, waiting, perhaps even plotting from beyond the veil. Our story begins on a stormy autumn evening in 1923, when young heiress Amelia Hawthorne, a spirited woman of 25 with raven hair cascading like midnight rivers and eyes the color of stormy seas, inherited the mansion from a distant uncle she barely knew, a reclusive scholar named Theodore Eldridge, the last of Cornelius's line, who had spent his final years locked away in the attic study, scribbling mad ramblings about stopping the sands and trapping eternity, his death shrouded in mystery as servants found him slumped over his desk, an antique pocket watch clutched in his rigid hand, its hands frozen at midnight, the same hour that every clock in the mansion would forever mark. Amelia, driven by curiosity and the allure of hidden treasures, for legend spoke of a vast fortune concealed within the walls, gold bars from Cornelius's empire and priceless artifacts from his travels to Egypt and the Orient, arrived at the gates with nothing but a lantern, a leather-bound journal, and a determination that bordered on recklessness, the wind howling through the trees like banshees mourning the lost, rain lashing against her coat as she pried open the gates with a creak that echoed like a death knell, stepping onto the cracked cobblestone path overgrown with thorny vines that tugged at her skirts as if trying to pull her back, warning her to flee while she still could. As she approached the massive oak doors, carved with scenes of hourglasses shattering and clocks melting into oblivion, a chill ran down her spine, not from the cold but from the unnatural stillness that enveloped the property. No birds sang, no leaves rustled despite the gale. It was as if the mansion existed in a bubble where the outside world ceased to intrude, and with a deep breath, she pushed the doors open, the hinges groaning in protest after years of disuse, revealing a grand foyer. Bathed in the faint glow of her lantern, where a sweeping marble staircase ascended into shadows, flanked by suits of armor that seemed to shift ever so slightly when she wasn't looking, their visors hiding eyes that might blink if she stared too long. Dust motes danced in the air like ghosts at an eternal ball, undisturbed for decades, and as Amelia stepped inside, the doors slammed shut behind her with a finality that made her heart skip, sealing her within this time-frozen tomb, the air thick with the scent of aged wood, mothballs, and something metallic, like old blood, and she couldn't shake the feeling that she was not alone, that invisible presences watched her every move, their breaths syncing with hers in the oppressive quiet. Venturing deeper, she entered the drawing room, a opulent space frozen in mid-Victorian splendor, with velvet drapes heavy with dust-framing windows that looked out onto a garden where roses bloomed eternally red, untouched by seasons, their petals perfect as if plucked yesterday, though the calendar on the wall, yellowed with age, still showed the date of Theodore's death in 1918, 5 years prior, and the fireplace mantel held crystal decanters half filled with amber liquor that hadn't evaporated, as if time itself had paused mid-pour. Amelia's fingers trailed over a grand piano, its keys yellowed ivory, and as she pressed one, a single note rang out, pure and haunting, reverberating through the house like a summons, and in that moment, she swore she heard faint laughter from upstairs, childish giggles that sent shivers racing across her skin, drawing her inexorably toward the staircase, her lantern casting elongated shadows that twisted into grotesque shapes, mimicking human forms in agony or ecstasy, she couldn't tell which. Ascending the stairs, each step creaking underfoot like bones breaking, she reached the second floor, where a long hallway stretched into infinity, doors lining both sides, each adorned with brass knobs shaped like hourglasses, and from behind one, she heard a soft ticking, impossible in a house where all clocks had stopped, her curiosity overriding fear as she turned the knob and entered what appeared to be a nursery, frozen in a perpetual twilight, with cribs draped in lace, toys scattered on the floor as if children had just stepped away, a wooden horse mid-rock, a doll with porcelain eyes that seemed to follow her, its tiny dress pristine despite the years, and on the wall, a faded photograph of twin girls, Cornelius's daughters, lost to a mysterious illness in 1885, their smiles innocent yet somehow knowing, as if they held the key to the mansion's curse. Whispers began then, faint at first, words like "stay" and "forever" slithering through the air, and Amelia felt a tug at her sleeve, turning to find nothing but empty space, her pulse quickening as she backed out. Explored the library, a cavernous room with shelves towering to the ceiling, laden with leather-bound tomes on alchemy, chronology, and the occult, dust undisturbed on their spines except for one volume pulled slightly askew, The Art of Temporal Binding, by an anonymous author, and as she opened it, pages fluttered of their own accord to a diagram of the mansion, marked with ley lines converging on the clock tower. Notes in Theodore's handwriting scrawled in the margins, the ritual worked. Time halts at the stroke of 12, but at what price? The souls are trapped, looping eternally. A gust of wind from nowhere extinguished her lantern, plunging the room into darkness save for the moonlight filtering through cracked panes, and in that gloom, shapes materialized, ethereal figures in Victorian attire, dancing a waltz that repeated every few moments, their faces blurring into familiarity, one resembling Cornelius himself, his eyes pleading as he reached out, his mouth forming silent words, "Release us." Terror gripped Amelia, but intrigue pulled stronger, leading her to the master bedroom, where a four-poster bed dominated, its canopy heavy with cobwebs like veils of forgotten brides, and on the nightstand, a journal lay open, entries detailing Cornelius's descent into madness after his wife's death in childbirth, his experiments with a stolen Egyptian artifact, a golden ankh said to command time, hidden in the clock tower to create a sanctuary from aging, but instead ensnaring all within in an endless midnight, where days never dawned, wounds never healed, and regrets replayed infinitely. As she read, the room grew colder, frost forming on the mirrors, reflecting not her image but scenes from the past, Cornelius activating the ankh, a flash of light, then screams as time fractured, servants trapped in loops, reliving their last moments over and over, the twin girls playing eternally, Theodore discovering the truth too late, dooming himself to the same fate. Amelia's breath fogged the air, her hands trembling as she pocketed the journal, racing toward the clock tower stairs, the house now alive with activity, doors slamming, footsteps echoing from empty rooms, shadows coalescing into pursuing forms, their whispers turning to wails, "Join us, stay forever." Climbing the spiral staircase, wind howling despite sealed windows, she burst into the tower room, where massive gears loomed motionless, the clock hands at 12, and in the center, on a pedestal, the golden ankh glowed with an otherworldly light, pulsating like a heart, surrounded by runes etched in the floor that hummed with energy. Touching it, visions assaulted her, Cornelius's pact with ancient entities, trading his soul for timelessness, but the spell backfired, creating a temporal prison where inhabitants aged not but suffered eternally, reliving pains without end, and Amelia realized with horror that hours had passed outside while inside felt like minutes, or was it the reverse, time dilating, contracting, bending to the ankh's will. Desperation fueled her, she smashed the ankh against the gears, a crack echoing like thunder, sparks flying as time resumed with a vengeance, clocks ticking furiously, dust settling, roses in the garden wilting in seconds, figures solidifying then crumbling to bones, screams fading into silence as the loops broke, souls freed at last. But as the mansion aged rapidly around her, walls cracking, floors buckling, Amelia fled down the stairs, through collapsing halls, bursting out the doors just as the structure groaned and began to crumble, the clock tower toppling in a cascade of stone and secrets, burying the curse beneath rubble. Panting in the dawn light, for night had turned to day in an instant, she looked back at the ruins, the fog lifting to reveal an ordinary valley, the spell broken, but in her pocket, the journal remained, and in her mind, the whispers lingered faintly, a reminder that some places where time stands still should never be disturbed, lest you become part of the eternity you seek to unravel. Yet, as Amelia walked away, the pocket watch she had unwittingly taken from Theodore's desk ticked once more, its hands moving forward, but in her dreams that night and every night after, she found herself back in the mansion, dancing with the ghosts, wondering if she had truly escaped or merely entered a larger loop, where time stood still in the recesses of her soul, forever haunted by the mansion's grasp. And so the tale endures, a warning etched in the annals of forgotten history, for in every shadowed corner of the world, there are places like the Eldridge Mansion, where the veil between past and present thins, inviting the bold to step through, only to find that some doors, once opened, can never be fully closed, their echoes rippling through time itself, drawing new souls into the web of eternity. But wait, there's more to this enigma, for in the years following Amelia's escape, whispers persisted among locals of strange occurrences at the site, lights flickering in the ruins on moonless nights, children's laughter carried on the wind, and intrepid explorers who ventured too close vanishing without a trace, their cars found abandoned at the gates, engines still warm, as if time had claimed them anew. Historians delving into Cornelius Eldridge's background uncovered ties to occult societies, secret gatherings in the mansion's basement where rituals invoked deities of chronology, Kronos and Ion blended with Egyptian Set, aiming to halt the wheel of fate, but unleashing instead a rift that warped reality within those walls, a pocket dimension where seconds stretched to centuries or compressed to nothingness, explaining the pristine condition of perishables and the ageless blooms. Amelia, in her later years, became a recluse herself, penning a memoir that few believed, detailing how the ankh wasn't destroyed but merely dormant, its fragments scattered in the collapse, waiting for someone to reassemble them and reignite the spell, a temptation for those seeking immortality in a mortal world. Skeptics dismissed it as delusion, but artifacts unearthed from the site, shards of gold inscribed with hieroglyphs translating to eternal stasis, lent credence, sparking an underground fascination, with cults forming to worship the timeless one, believed to be Cornelius's spirit lingering in the ether, offering glimpses of frozen moments to devotees in exchange for fresh vessels. One such tale involved a modern-day adventurer, a YouTuber named Jax Harlan in 2023, who, inspired by Amelia's story digitized in online archives, trekked to the overgrown ruins with camera in hand, live-streaming his exploration, his footage capturing anomalous phenomena, watches stopping at midnight, echoes of Victorian music, and shadowy figures that viewers swore were the twins, reaching out through the screen. Midway through, the stream glitched, time codes jumping erratically, and Jax's voice distorted, pleading, "It's starting again, time is stopping," before cutting out, his disappearance unsolved, the video going viral with millions of views, comments flooded with theories of temporal anomalies, government cover-ups, or elaborate hoaxes, but those who analyzed the frames found impossibilities. reflections showing the mansion intact, as if the camera peered into the past. This resurgence breathed new life into the legend, drawing paranormal investigators equipped with EMF meters and thermal cameras, one team in 2024 reporting fluctuations indicating chronal disturbances, pockets where time dilated, team members aging subtly, gray hairs appearing, wrinkles deepening, after mere hours inside, emerging disoriented, memories fragmented like shattered glass. Delving deeper into historical records, connections emerged to other sites worldwide, the Winchester Mystery House with its endless rooms defying logic, perhaps a failed attempt at similar temporal magic, or the Borley Rectory in England, haunted by nuns trapped in time loops, even links to quantum theories, physicists speculating the ankh harnessed zero-point energy to create a singularity, bending spacetime within the mansion's bounds, a micro-black hole of chronology where entropy reversed, preserving matter but ensnaring consciousness. Amelia's descendants, guarding the journal, revealed entries hinting at a failsafe, a ritual to permanently seal the rift, involving moonlight on the equinox, recitation of ancient incantations, and sacrifice of a temporal token, like the pocket watch, but attempts to perform it faltered, participants reporting visions of Cornelius barring the way, his form manifesting as a chronal specter, manipulating events to perpetuate the curse. In the quiet hours, when clocks strike 12, some claim to hear the mansion's call, a siren song promising escape from life's fleeting nature, but at the cost of freedom, for in that stasis, joy withers alongside sorrow, existence becoming a monotonous echo. Thus, the mansion's legacy endures, a tapestry woven from threads of ambition, loss, and the human yearning to defy the ticking hands, reminding us that time, though relentless, is the canvas of our stories, and to halt it is to erase the very essence of being, leaving only shadows dancing in perpetual midnight, waiting for the next soul to wander in and join the eternal waltz. Yet, in a twist that blurs the line between fact and fiction, recent satellite imagery of the site shows anomalies, structures faintly outlined where ruins should be, as if the mansion rebuilds itself molecule by molecule, defying decay, sparking expeditions funded by eccentric billionaires obsessed with longevity. One such venture in 2025 uncovering a buried chamber beneath the clock tower foundation, containing relics, the reassembled ankh, glowing faintly, surrounded by skeletons in meditative poses, their bones dated to various eras, suggesting the curse draws victims across centuries, a temporal vortex pulling in the unwary from different timelines. The lead archaeologist, Dr. Elena Voss, documented eerie events, tools vanishing and reappearing aged, team members experiencing déjà vu loops, reliving conversations verbatim, and in her final report before vanishing, she wrote, "The mansion isn't where time stood still, it's where time converges, a nexus of all moments, and to enter is to become timeless, lost in the infinite." Her words echoed Amelia's, closing the circle, as search parties found only her journal at the site, pages filled with sketches of the twins, now smiling with Elena's face superimposed, hinting at assimilation into the collective. This perpetual mystery fuels endless speculation, from multiverse theories positing the mansion as a bleed point between realities, to psychological interpretations viewing it as a metaphor for grief stagnation, where loss freezes the bereaved in amber. But for those who heed the call, the allure remains irresistible, a gamble with eternity where the house always wins, its walls echoing with the trapped soul's lament, a chorus building to a crescendo that might one day shatter the veil entirely, spilling stasis into our world, halting clocks globally at midnight, humanity suspended in a single, unending moment, unless, perhaps, a hero arises to confront the core, armed not with tools but understanding, severing the ankh's bond forever. Until then, the mansion waits, patient as the stars, its story a living entity, evolving with each teller, each victim, weaving new strands into the fabric of legend, ensuring that as long as curiosity burns in human hearts, time will stand still for someone, somewhere, in the shadowed halls of the Eldridge estate. And so, dear listener, if you ever find yourself on a foggy New England road, gates creaking open invitingly, remember this tale, turn back, for some secrets are meant to remain frozen, lest you become the next chapter in the mansion where time stood still.